Nothing left to say, but no mistakes. Have a lot of fun. Remember, we're all there. We're all there as your backup. So you're not alone.
Uh, I think we're about to go live. I'm sorry, I've accidentally just done that. So shall we go cameras off?
Yes, please.
I'm so sorry to end the pre-show quite like that, but there we go.
Hello and welcome to the Slow Theatre Company's International Creative Lab. It's Monday and it's the afternoon and it's a different time to normal because this creative lab is between artists here in Norfolk, the UK, and artists around the globe. So we're really excited to be able to bring together somebody from Greece and someone from Norfolk today. This is Christophorus, as you can see, and we will shortly be inviting Christophorus to come on board and Natasha. But before we get going, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Creative Lab. The lab brings together artists, 7 artists from the UK and 7 artists from the rest of the world. And we've had people from Brazil, Nicaragua, Germany, Hong Kong. We're having someone from Hong Kong next week, Greece. And the biggest point of the whole thing is that this is an invite for artists to come online and collaborate with someone they've never met in person. So the 2 people that you're going to see today, they've never met in person and they've only been brought together in the last couple of weeks online for 1 or 2 hours. This is not a place to watch a final production. This is about process. This is about the questions of how can we collaborate now when we really can't get out and meet people, but also in the future when we don't want to burden the planet with our movement. We want to stay at home but still reach out and find artists both within our own disciplines and others to do creative things with. So I would invite you to watch today as almost like a development opportunity, a creative development opportunity, a way to see some artists' process and how they have work together to create new ones, and leaning into technology and the platforms that we have both now when we're really dealing with lockdowns all around the world, but also in the future. You don't have to have the finances to be able to go and travel to be able to collaborate. You can do some of this online and it can be meaningful. So this entire project has been running for 6 months. This is our final month, and it comes as a direct response to the restrictions that we as artists have found ourselves. But it's been an opportunity to see about new process. And so instead of being whilst it's been something that has directly responded to a lockdown, hopefully it's an opening up of opportunities for those that are taking part and for you that's watching. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I should say my name's Danny and I'm the producer of the project. I'm going to invite Becky to come on board. She's the project assistant, and she's just going to tell you a tiny bit about who Slow Theatre Company is.
Okay. Hello, like Danny said, my name's Becky and I'm the project assistant for Slow Theatre Company. I joined back in February 2020 and I studied theatre. So Slow Theatre Company is a not-for-profit theatre company. It's based in Norfolk, and we try to create as many theatrical happenings as we can using multidisciplines, artists and people within the communities. Our work has taken us into small communities, and sometimes we work with people who are feeling challenged or have challenges. This can happen anywhere within Norfolk. And unfortunately, just like most people within the arts, here within the UK and around the globe, we have been hit with the COVID, the lockdowns and the challenges that it's brought to artists. So we have to change the way we communicate and create, and this project has been created directly out of those challenges that artists are facing. Hopefully, this creative exchange lets them experiment and create in different ways. We'd like to also remind you that even the smallest communities are not isolated. Now we are doing 7 full projects, and this is our 6th one. So if you'd like to check any more of them out, you can on YouTube, on Facebook, and you can also check us out at our website if you want to know anything more about us. But yeah, thanks, Danny.
Thank you, Becky, and yeah, really great. And as Becky said, there are already a free body of work for people that would like to see how this has happened with other people. But today, this afternoon, apparently this is supposed to be the day that's the most bleakest in the year, something to do with being after Christmas and that. But it does not feel bleak anymore because we have two wonderful people coming on board today, and it's such an honour to be able to peek through the rehearsal curtains to see these two people work together. So if I'm not going to chat anymore because I'm not the important person here. So let's invite our artists to come on board. I'd like to invite Christoforos Pavlakis from Greece, a theatre maker, and Natasha Cordo, who is a creative practitioner in Norfolk. Welcome, welcome. Lovely to see you both.
Thank you for the lovely introduction.
What I really love is how glorious it looks in both of your locations. So I'm going to leave now. We are there at the background. You have us, but for the next 6-7 minutes, please do enjoy being together.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you for the opportunity. Tash, lovely, a real pleasure to be in this exchange with you. And let's say to those that are watching us that we had this idea of walks, inviting each other to the other's place. I've never been to Norwich, where you are based. And if I'm not mistaken, you've never been to Athens?
No, I have not. No.
So we worked on this concept of imaginary walks, inviting the other partner to special spots to share memories and to create new ones, right?
Yeah, and I was also kind of thinking it could be an opportunity to maybe merge our two walks into this surreal walk that we've had together, or because we can't be with each other in person, so kind of trying to experience some form of it in some way together. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
I accept the challenge. Would you like me to take to a special spot in your area first?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could track our journey as we do it. So maybe if we take Chris on his screen, have the virtual walk setting open, and then even if it's just like a map, just as we start. And I'm happy for maybe you to go first if you want to.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm gonna take you to a special place that that gave me the background image. And can we, Chris, take...
Hi. Did you want the PowerPoint? Is that what?
If you could, share the mural screen.
The mural screen.
Yeah. If that's okay. Just as a go, and we might not.
Yeah.
Stick with it. But...
So that's what I have at the minute. Is that the right one?
Yeah, I think it might need to be refreshed.
Yes, you are correct. Okay, give me a second. There's that's not refreshing for some reason. Give me a minute. Oh well.
If not, I can share my screen whilst you talk.
All right.
So, when did you go? Did you go for a walk the other day? And is this when you went to the spot? Because we said to sort of go for some walks this next week on our own, as if we were walking together.
I have to admit that thanks to COVID, I reconciled myself with this particular spot on the coast, a no-go place for the locals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the waters are not that clean to swim, at least for us, the residents, and it was a very touristic place with noise, with many snapping photos constantly. So it was kind of annoying. In the light of the restrictions and the COVID that killed the tourists
Mm.
from abroad, this has become another quiet spot that many use for meditation.
Mm.
And the proximity to water also bringing calm. And when we talked about this exchange, I said I'm gonna include it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special one that I would like you to take you there to discover, as something the beauty of the nature.
Okay, perfect. Then if you can
What's the special about the Anglia Square? What's the special about Anglia Square? Why did you pick the Anglia Square?
That was one example. So, I mean, there's lots of things. It's a place that when I was younger I went to quite a lot. But it's near my house, so it's quite part of my walking area. And I mean, there's quite a lot going around it at the moment because they're trying to lock down the development. I think I'm totally not as clued up as I should be because it was more for going to the place and reacting with it rather than necessarily the history. But I know that I think it used to be kind of the centre, I think, in Norwich for shopping and this kind of district and a sort of community centre, and it is still a big community centre for a lot of people. But because there's been new shopping centres opened up in Norwich and a few other places, this one's sort of been left, so it's kind of a lot of it's a bit abandoned and empty. And I think they were planning before COVID to knock down and build up a kind of new development area. And I don't know if it was I think it wasn't just housing. They were going to bring like maybe a hotel and some chains and stuff like that, as far as I understand. So there's a big kind of local backing against that, I think, or in the community. I think a lot of people wanted to save Anglia Square from that. But the architecture is something that I think a lot of people feel divided on because it was quite futuristic for what it thought it was going to be. So yeah, if Chris, you could pull up the video of Anglia Square on your screen.
Sure. Is that the correct mural now? So it's just blank at the minute.
No, I've drawn on it. So maybe if I have to press done drawing and it'll pop up. If you zoom, I think it's if you move down on the square or zoom out of the square, maybe it'll be.
Let's try zooming
elsewhere
out.
on it.
Ah,
Hmm.
is that right?
Yes.
There we go. There you are.
It's just a sketch of the beach behind in a very abstract way.
Lovely. Okay, so you'd like the Anglia Square video?
Yes, please. Yeah. Do we? Yeah. Okay. I'll let that play.
Say if you want me to like turn the sound down and leave it running, or
Yeah, if you could mute it, that'd be great.
And it's not a residential area, or some people live in this building.
I think there's
It's
definitely office studios in it. I actually don't think it is a residential area. There's residential around it.
Doesn't look like
the actual building isn't anymore. I don't know if it used to be. It's maybe something to research and look into more, definitely. But yeah, it's just part of the walk, and I used to go there quite a lot. And I guess the architecture and I don't know, it just seems like part of Norwich that maybe wouldn't be on the guide now, or it's not the kind of tourist hotspot anymore. But I think it's still really lovely. And I would love to see it have more.
All this background information about the development plans and the reaction from the local community, the preservation of that social tissue. I now imagine what kind of social movement, civic movement could be built. And coming from a city that has shown such resistance civic movements in the past decade, I try to imagine, in times of COVID, in times of lockdown, how this resistance could be organized and expressed and manifested. Imagine, for instance, all those walking past this building, this Anglia Square, not, expressing the discontent, this opposition to the plans. And I try to imagine how to express all this in front of the building, inside the building, by squatting or outside, or I don't know, or even by some banners. All these,
It feels like it could be. I feel like it felt like an opportunity to, and don't get me wrong, there's lots of local things going on looking at this, but it feels like there's a moment for. I feel like it could be re-loved or repurposed in a way, or and that kind of creating an alternative system. And I think that's part of when money comes into things, and we value things for money so much, and its profit and how much money. I think the value of how we see the building and what it's is part of what needs to be relooked at. And I don't know. I think there's something in it. And I think that's really interesting to kind of translate.
You know something? I had in mind to invite you to a meditation on the coast in Athens, where I live. But what if, and Chris can help, having video on the one screen and on the other, invite you and all our viewers to meditate as if we were outside of this building, and see what's gonna be the reaction. What kind it's gonna sound to you first, Tash, and then to those that are watching us. So
I am also there's maybe I'm just going to share my screen quickly if I can.
All right.
Oh no, I can't share my screen.
Sorry, I can allow that. Hang on.
Just because it's a little sketch, but it's the merging of the sea in Athens with Anglia Square. So it's this kind of meditative moment. So maybe I might share that.
Try now.
Okay. So let's focus on the flow of energy. Let's find a place to sit comfortably and breathe deeply. Inhale, exhale. Let's do it one more time. Inhale, exhale. So now, please cross your left ankle over your right ankle, if you can. Extend your hands to the front, then turn your hands with thumbs towards the earth. Cross your right hand over your left hand, interlacing the fingers of your hands to form a fist. With your fist, touch the center of your sternum. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and relax the entire body. Imagine that you can go down to a place in the center of your being. To help you relax further, please relax your tongue and touch the back of your upper row of teeth with the tip of your tongue. Breathe deeply. Try to let go all of your thoughts and sit here in silence for a few minutes. Relax your hands and place them on your legs. Take a deep breath and slowly open your eyes. Stretch your hands. Stretch your arms. Bring yourself slowly back into your room and ask yourself what came up for you during this short period of meditation. How would that be in front of this building in Anglia Square, Tash?
So I couldn't hear that last bit. Can you repeat the last bit? Sorry, I
Yes.
couldn't hear you.
How would that be? That kind of in front of the building in Anglia Square. To let all
think
this
you're saying how-
anxiety. Yes.
I'm not sure. I think the only thing I can say is, like, for me, I kind of imagined that I was in the middle of the square and there's this kind of area where there's this kind of big networked kind of podium thing which I can show you, and I kind of just imagine the ocean on the floor and rocks, and there's kind of, it's sort of seeping into the space, but kind of not in a scary way, in a nice way, a kind of alternative place of kind of having some of the natural world feeding and breathing kind of life and into the space.
Yeah, definitely. Shall we move next?
Yeah, okay. So, because that made me think of the networks, Chris, could you, Chris Tech, could you share a video called Networks?
Sure.
And this video, before we start playing it, I was sort of on this walk where I was kind of, and it felt like I was kind of thinking about just what was around me and looking for connections and links in the same way that I think this exchange is us looking for connections and links and different lines and paths of thought. And this network, I sort of worked with the tree first, which was kind of just like an organic network, which kind of makes me think of the ocean and what you're talking about as a kind of organic space for meditation and these kind of biological networks and connections as we're having in our own bodies as we do this, and the meditation I think grounds us in that. And then I felt with the wires that you'll see in it, just about Zoom and linking and this kind of virtual but physical cables. And then Anglia Square, I didn't know how I brought it, but it's interesting that it's come up now, because I feel like the network, the lines that I saw within it, I felt like there was a socialness in it. And I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it feels. But there was just these different elements, I think, unconsciously playing with me. When I went on the walk, I came back and I saw that I'd been drawn to this kind of different places of thinking and movement. So yeah, Chris, Chris Tech, can you play? Great. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, the natural with the built environment, and
Mm.
then yeah, and that could be also uh, the human and the non-human,
Yeah.
another level in the connection.
Mhm.
And I liked also the choice of black and white uh, in recording this. You know that it was something that transformed my neighborhood when they upgraded the transformation and they decided to remove the wires for the 5G. The, without fibers, without the wires.
Mm.
And that changed the neighborhood because it made clear the spots, the removal of all these wires. It gave more space,
Mhm.
and it led us to rethink what to replace, how to polish the neighborhoods, what to build anew. And that gave the idea for new light lamps.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
I have one picture that I shared in the Google Drive about in the Google Share as well. Chris, Becky, can you please share the find and share the one with the light lamps?
Light lamps. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I just need to
What do
write.
you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are the light lamps natural? Are they kind of how are they lit then?
Two different periods of time telling their stories. I mean, I can tell about the now, the coexistence of trees and wires in Norwich, and for you, it's a contrast at the same time, a metaphor for these connections.
Mm.
If you see, and that's what I see from my window every day, two
Yeah.
different light lamps, the wires and the. I think you found it, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it. Tash has it on the mural as
Oh,
well.
fantastic,
Yeah. I
fantastic.
just found it.
The one is from the 60s, the taller one, the
Okay. Yeah.
one, and the new one is from some years ago, a bit more stylish, but also more eco-friendly. Uh, and again, how these two different types of light lamps uh, are connected.
Mhm.
In the old one, it's uh, the installation of this tall light lamp is by workers that were refugees.
Mhm.
Uh, the new one is installed by workers uh, with that enjoyed higher working protection standards. So behind this, there's stories. I'm sure that in the case of these wires, there is a story in Norwich who installed these wires, who worked for this. And that's part of the local history that,
Yeah.
I walk past this spot every day. I never pay attention to. I see
Yeah.
that only as an object of functionality.
Mm.
Now there is also the claim for not functionality but efficiency, but higher social, higher um, environmental standards to be upheld by this. And for me, it also has to do with the duo light and darkness.
Mhm.
What is enlightened by the rich, what is not, some spots. This one is a residential area, is an area that required a second light lamp because of petty crimes, because and the installation of a second one changed the dynamics.
Mm. Mm. It's how does it feel quite different in the nighttime with that kind of light? Because it looks like a softer light. What color is the light in the evenings? Is it like a yellowy light or a blue light?
Yeah, yeah, white-ish, yellowish. It used to be also a place, a romantic place for, because there is some sort of not benches, but places to sit for those that go there to meet their romance or a very social spot, socializing, having a chat. On the other direction that is not captured by the picture, there are some kiosks and small shops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So that could be the equivalent spot
Yeah,
of the one we've seen in Norwich.
yeah.
I wanted to show you something else to find the one with the barrel and to put it
Oh
in
yeah.
your mural because I think now that I want to intrigue your imagination and creativity to tell you a bit
I
more
go
about
up.
this.
Might be able to. I think is this the one with the myth outside your house? Yes.
Mhm.
This one?
Yes. This is something that, I had the eureka moment over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I said, this is something that I walk past every single day. It's in the front of the front door of our building. We have a little communal garden. Not any of us bothers to look after this little space. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't know who had the idea of this little pot barrel. But when I had that eureka moment, I connected it, I associated it with the Diogenes barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this is something that I would like to challenge you. Uh, it's something that's in the mythology, and we are fed with mythology all time here in my country.
Yeah.
We are told about Diogenes, the father of cynicism, that they used to have that school of thought with many disciples and teaching the day and then retiring to his barrel and find peace. Uh, and I wanted you to imagine if we had that chance to have our own barrel and to enter into this barrel, how would that look like to you as a filmmaker? As how, what kind of thing would you would imagine to be in the interior of this barrel?
So yeah, what is the story of the barrel? Or do I
That
guess
is
first?
that is empty space. That is very dark. That is in the mythology. That is quiet. That is a very private space. And I thought, okay, now with the COVID, that we have that social isolation,
Mm.
we are all searching for a barrel to hide. find peace, to disconnect from the others, to be safe and to be calm. Eh, yeah, and for me, it's again this contrast between light and darkness, this social and private,
Mhm.
this space for myself. Uh, does it make any sense to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think how I'm understanding it, I think it's interesting because I think darkness can mean, it can go either way, can't it? Like you're kind of saying, it's the two spaces in which there's possibilities and embracing and like safety and being hidden. And yeah, when you said safe as well, like, and a place for yourself, it kind of feels like it, like hibernating, or kind of that experience with the outside world and within, and that kind of interior exterior, which I guess is, like you said, much about like isolation and how it is with the world at the moment, and we're all kind of in our little barrels maybe at the moment. But then I also think there's when you're kind of looking at it, like in this photo from the outside, you could always, I think spaces which are unknown, people project a lot onto, and that depends on where they're at. So it could easily be their insecurities, it's a place to hide. But so I don't know, for example, like this is a form of exposure, the exchange.
Yeah.
So it's not a form of hiding, but at the same time, it could be the opposite, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And to be honest, this is a place where cats are hiding. One time I can remember we had found a turtle. We don't know how it
Really?
entered. Yeah.
Huh?
And children play. Uh, it's full of life. This space is something people, play, find a way to play with. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, and I wanted to throw it into this exchange as a further stimulus.
Mm. Mm. I feel like I feel like there is something that there, I don't know how to articulate yet, but I feel like there is a part of, I don't know, maybe it's kind of what we're doing now. We've got these like little virtual holes, and I don't know, I don't know how to.
No, it does make sense. It does make sense.
Place to play and all sorts of things.
Absolutely.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Yeah.
there was a bit where we were talking. We sort of had a play at writing a script, and when we were talking about not knowing what's inside and what's outside, and there was a moment where, returning to normality as we know it, and the human and non-human elements we've been talking about, and also just kind of looking at what surrounds us
Yeah.
in new light, and kind of us often, I feel like maybe there's a slowness at the moment, and maybe there's something at this in our virtual walk where we can even break up time now, and we're taking moments and reconfiguring them in a way which I don't know if before lockdown I would have taken the time to go on a walk in such a way, without feeling like there was a point or purpose. And I think this week it was quite interesting because I was going for these walks, and I did a drawing, and I was trying to find different ways to engage with the environment as well as just go on a walk and just be. And it was interesting because it felt like it opened up. It was a way of kind of coming out of the barrel. And and I did end up having a conversation with someone I'd never met before, very like 4 meters apart. And I saw them walking down the street or in the path in the forest. and they were kind of seemed they were on their own like me, and it just seemed we were both there just to kind of be there. So we said hello, and then it turned out he was a photographer, and he'd been taking pictures of nature, and then we ended up having this conversation for maybe an hour, you know, and I'd never met him. And I think just having gone outside and going into a space, even though it's a weird time because it's actually not the time to connect, it's weird how we've found different ways to connect in such a distance sense. And yeah, it was quite, you know, personal. He spoke about his family and grief that's happening for him at the moment, and it just felt really that the walk can be, I don't know, it can be so many things that it opens up, and it's new avenues and it's new possibilities and it's new people's mergings.
It becomes more social.
Yeah.
It becomes more social. I interpreted the walk as something to curate. I felt like a curator. I not only went out of the barrel, but I sensed a responsibility to you and to anyone else that comes to this walk. And in cultures like mine, we discussed that in private, we don't go for a walk. It's something very social. It's a social activity.
Yeah.
We enjoy the walk. We pay attention and dedicate time for this kind of experience. And never alone, but in company of many other people, inviting others to join. So I had you in mind constantly because I wanted to take care of you and to show you not necessarily the good, the beautiful, and avoid the ugly places, but some things, you know, that can be meaningful. You can connect with, you can create some moments for you, actually. Like the videos with the tides, to feel a little bit and to find some positivity, some good vibes, to send you some good vibes. And this
it was kind of, it's the walk being social, and then also kind of a gift giving as well. Reminds me of we've spoken before, but being half Serbian in that culture too, which I think is more similar with Greek culture than English. The walk is kind of this event that you would go, and it's very naturally part of day-to-day socializing. So I think I felt too, I kind of brought you on the walk because I felt without you on the walk with me on these walks, meeting people, whatever it was, I just wouldn't walk on my own. And I know people do, and people really enjoy it, but I normally have to have someone to go with or something. So I definitely know what you mean. It feels like a part of that social walk and the space of it. And then, something else you said. Yeah, and then it kind of the responsibility to each other and kind of wanting to present a gift, but then also something to kind of, stimulate and push conversation. And I guess I kind of wanted to maybe play, like not necessarily like play with expectations, like show some nice things, show some things where it just seemed quite everyday, and maybe it's some of the parts that, you know, you wouldn't see or wouldn't be like in a brochure, you know, it's just the street or something.
If we were on a walk in the streets of Norwich, what would you like me to taste?
To see?
To taste. To drink or to eat. Yeah, something. Let's add some flavor in this walk.
Yeah, well, I did actually. I went and got a coffee on my walk. So and a vegan sausage roll because I'm vegan. So I would have taken you there because that's part of the walk. You get the coffee and you have it as you walk. So there was that. But then I think there's a few places in the market in Norwich which I would have probably taken you to, which is a bit further from my house. But it would have been a big day's walk. So, what about you?
Along the coast in that. And can we please, Chris Tecky, play some of the videos with the tides? Because the last time I went, I saw some doors. Prepare tahini.
Did you want the sound?
Tahini drink. Yeah, if you like. Tahini drinks, but it's this roasted sesame seed butter
Oh yeah.
that is kind of
Oh, the video.
vegan,
Sorry, the video.
and is one of our sources. Yeah,
The video won't play on the stream while Tash is screen sharing, so I don't know if you
Okay.
want to just unscreen share and then screen share again afterwards.
that's fine. So imagine a few meters away, there are some vendors preparing tahini drinks, and they sell them in small cups.
Mhm.
And this is a source of calcium that does good to bones. And I said to myself, oh my God, this is something, I'd love my partner in the exchange and anyone visiting my place to come and taste it, to
Yeah.
create a moment.
Mhm. Yeah, that's lovely. I had I was thinking
Tell me about how you found the story we started.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was interesting because you started it was started kind of a day, and then I think we definitely moved. Like you took it into a really interesting sort of like technology, like futuristic space, which I hadn't expected. So that was really interesting, and I think, I mean, I'd be up for working on it a little bit to see where it went if you want to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Or we don't have to. But yeah. What had you thought when you started writing it? What was your thinking? Hello?
That is stuck. Yeah, can you hear me? Someone that is stuck at home and prepares the move to go outside. And yeah.
Nice. What made you want to bring it into like a kind of futuristic alternative place? But for me, it feels like that with the kind of we talked about like let me read a little bit so then people listening can understand.
Because the single most important thing when that I have to have with me when going outside is the cell phone. I text to a government number and I get the authorization. And it feels like, I don't know how it is in England, how things are authorized, but here the ID doesn't matter, money doesn't matter when you go outside. The only thing is that you have your cell phone and the text that you're getting from the government line that says you are authorized to go outside for 69 to 90 minutes for this reason, for shopping, for exercise. And for me, that played into, how this will evolve today, tomorrow, or can be imaginative. that you have someone that is telling you what to do, that knows more than you do.
Yeah. See, for me on my walk, I didn't take my phone. I left it behind on purpose. So it's a completely different, because we don't have that kind of tracking for our walks. So yeah, that makes much more sense now. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah.
And
Oh, go on.
I wanted to challenge you to say, what if, I mean, tomorrow we're gonna be as individuals obliged to have a certificate for the COVID vaccination, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if becomes permanent somehow? That certificate, that gadget that has some piece of information about us. And this is compiled into a history, personal history. And, in a dystopic future, this starts suggesting, instructing us where to go, what to do, what to eat.
Well, it's interesting because, yeah, definitely. But I think it happens now in a commercial sense. So it's just it's the kind of the national body using it. And I definitely think that's the thing. I think with data and I guess it's just another forms of tracking our data, and it's a different type of surveillance technology, right? So I think with networks, that's why I think it's really interesting trying to find these alternative networks and thinking about those spaces. Or if that happened, what would then be the alternative? Someone would come up with a way to track it to something else, or to kind of, what are these kind of little subversions that people do as a kind of way of resisting control? But then also, there's so much positive and importance of the social benefit at the moment to to not have the sense of the individual, to kind of work as societies, as cities and people and communities, to protect one another by being transparent by our movements, where we are. So it's interesting, that kind of split between, and I think that's a massive conversation and topic at the moment. I think definitely, and there's definitely that sense, you can see it in the politics, of kind of how the government's treating it. I think a lot of their support base and people I've spoken to within that want that freedom and feel like they should be able to make their own decisions, but then at what cost, and where's that sense of a wider connectivity? And I think it's that idea between an individual and a kind of a shared being and a shared space, and respecting that. So yeah, I wonder, because in the story, they're checking their thing, they're connecting all of their voice and stuff. So that you're kind of plugged into this wider thing. And I think it's just where I think that problem is, sorry, I'm just thinking about, but the problem is around who uses that data and why. The intention might be really good, but then how, like you said, if it gets stored for later, if it gets used in different ways. So it's really a big factor around trust, and who do we trust, and who do we believe that will look after us in our situations, and should we look after ourselves, versus can we trust, I don't know, your local government giving you authority to walk around, and that they, your house is now empty. Do we trust that information is safe, that you've left the house empty, or whatever it is? But maybe we do. So I think it's just that kind of gamble for people.
Absolutely. And how we can organize resistance, because in East Anglia, and I connected to the first point of the walk, people are aware of what is at stake. People can find the temporality and the spatiality to organize themselves and to express, opposition, to reclaim this space for themselves, for the community. And in that kind of new landscape, with the technologies and how they penetrated all aspects of life, what is at stake is much higher, is privacy for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But for the time being, it seems that, if I don't take the cell phone with me, and I am caught, I'm gonna get fined. I'm gonna get a ticket. Eh, or if I do not, send text this government line, I won't get the authorization again, and I'm gonna get the fine.
Mm.
Uh, it seems that there is no alternative.
Yeah.
It seems that it is very much black and white, you know.
Mm. What would you prefer?
Mm, well, we are told that this is a very temporary measure, and this is for safety and security of the society as a whole. And this makes it acceptable for the time being.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think? What do you think of the fact that here in England we haven't got that? Do you think we should?
What? Say that again, because
The phone authorization and things we don't, because we don't have that at the moment. Do you think that would be something? Or you don't?
something, yeah, something that becomes part of ourselves, something that like an extension of our palm, like the most important thing, the cell phone replaced the ID. I mean, for me, that's massive. That's
Yeah. That's But then I guess, what if you don't have a cell phone? Does that?
I mean, if you were on the walk with me in
Mm.
Athens today, you would need to take your cell phone as well and text the government for authorization to be permitted to come to the walk. Maybe that should be on the beginning of this. You know, we respect the rules by each that you have to go by in each place. And if you were on a physical walk with me, I would have given you the number of the government hotline and the code, the specific code for the walk, 02, so that you can text and you can get instantly the authorization. And that would be your, entrance ticket to the outside world in Athens.
Yeah.
Hilarious, huh?
Yeah.
But this is a safety protocol.
Yeah. It's that'd be cool. I feel like if this was developed into a project, you'd have it kind of like this authorization mode to get in. And it's fun. It's also just bringing me back to the barrel, where I feel like actually it's the inverse. The barrel is the outside world now.
Absolutely. The boundaries have been pushed and the world turned upside down, inside out.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Inside out. Yeah, with the barrel. I feel like that's a really good way of putting it. I don't know what time. I think we've got. I'm not sure how much time we've got left, but we talked about maybe doing an exchange of a gift or something.
Less than 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay. Should we save that for 5 minutes, or when?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, should we revisit our blurred map of
Absolutely
Athens and Norwich? So, what should we pull into it? Should we, if this is a kind of journey or walk together? I've just been jotting down things as we speak. But yeah, is there things to add? Things to take away? Things to move?
What would be the final station of the walk in Norwich? Let's finish it with, something.
Let's look.
I mean, if from my side, the safety protocols impose that technological component, what would be the alternative safety protocol, the alternative well-being protocol in Norwich that restore you have these technological requirements for safety issues, but what would be the antithetical well-being protocol that you would like to add as a contrast? Reconnection with the nature, probably.
Yeah, I think that could be good. And actually, there's like two paths. I mean, there's three things that I could show here. So the background of what I've got at the moment is that kind of reconnection with nature and the walk and the kind of colour. I just thought the colour and the brightness and kind of focusing on that. But then there's also the blue flower you talked about, which I feel like is, and I made a blue flower version of the flower. So maybe Chris Tech could show blue flower. If not, maybe I can.
Yeah, is that a video or an image?
Yes, it's a video on the drive.
I have a pink flower.
I think there should be a blue flower now, uploaded just earlier today.
Oh.
And I think the blue flower is interesting because it's this kind of, you were talking about it being a symbol of this kind of between reality and nature. I don't know, I feel maybe you could describe it better, but I was thinking that that's kind of this, and I think playing with the digital image as well and changing it is that kind of what we're doing. It's these experiences and trying to find ways to connect virtually. So I don't know if that's the alternative, but trying to find ways to connect with nature and organic matter, but in this space in which we're so reliant on technology at the moment and these kind of organizations or ways around it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense as a response? Sorry, it's I know it's all over the place.
Absolutely. And it is timely because as Danny described, it's a Blue Monday, the third Monday of January.
Yes.
This,
Yeah.
And again, I stumbled upon the blue flower thing quite accidentally during the weekend. That's something that goes back to the Romanticists and Goethe. Goethe was the one that traveled to South Italy on the search for the blue flower. Back then, believed to not exist, to be in the imaginary. As something between poetry and reality, fantasy land and real world. And I thought, what a wonderful thing to go out for a walk on the search for the blue flower. It might exist, might not exist.
Yeah.
And
there's
you beautifully capture that in that short video.
Oh, thank you. There's the which is, I think, tying in, I've just found there's on the blue flower, the early use of the symbol and the romantic movement, like you were saying. He said, it says it was also part of an unfinished coming of age story by Novalis, a German author. And so he says, after contemplating a meeting with a stranger, he often dreams about a blue flower, which calls to him and absorbs his attention. And meeting with a stranger. So there you go.
That's the perfect ending of this exchange, I think. Wonderful.
Wonderful. I will just present to you now, if you like, my gift, which my style is often a bit offensive.
No, that's wonderful. Please.
So it's so it's not going to be the most flattering, but I will show you.
That's wonderful. Oh my God, I wanted to, I will give you my postal address to send it to me.
Yeah, I will.
And my gift requires your participation because it's a kind of, it's a song for children. And, my neighborhood eh, has welcomed some newcomers recently from East Africa. And in the summertime, this spot along the coast used to be offered also the place for the children of these families to play and to sing songs in Swahili. So I gonna pause and I'd love to finish with singing that. Uh, every time I do it, it brings warmth to my heart. So I hope you find it also something spirit lifting.
Okay, great.
I gonna type on Zoom.
I'll turn my video off then so I can listen to your voice and focus. Maybe we can play the blue flower whilst the
All right.
song is. Chris, Tech, is that okay to play the blue flower again on loop? Thank you.
All right.
All right.
I'm gonna go the first time myself, and then the second time you can join if you want.
Okay.
Si, do la da, ya kusine la do la da. Si, do la da, ya kusine la do la da. Banaha, ya kusine la do banaha. 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 Can we do it one more time together? Or is it okay? Do we have the time? It's a wonderful sing in Swahili, remembering the good memories from the past and, imagining new in the future.
Do you know what it translates as or what it means?
Not literally, but it's something that goes back to the childhood, to the shared moments.
Okay, we'll look into it. Cool.
Si, do la da, ya kusine la do la da. Si, do la da, ya kusine la do la da. Banaha, ya kusine la do banaha. 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 Thank you, Tash. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello and welcome Welcome back to, well, not welcome back, I'm back, I should say. Yes, so thank you so much to Christophorus and Natasha. We'll let them just take a moment. Christophorus, take a moment if you want to get some water or anything like that. The next phrase will be a short question and answer. So if anybody has any questions, this is the time to let us know. We've had some come in, and we're going to talk about what we've just seen. And that's this period now is about talking back with the artist and saying, what came out of it for you, or this part was interesting, and the process that we've just seen. I felt like it was so interesting how we saw two people who are in two different parts of the world, and they came around with this theme of going for a walk. I think that's a particularly interesting thing, idea to springboard ideas. I know that when we are artists, or actually a great deal of procrastinating happens whenever we have a task. But for when you're creating something new, or you're working on your own in a solo show, or in not a solo show, the ability to not start or not to get going can be really hammering to our self-confidence. So what was lovely today was thinking about how many conversations today could springboard new ideas, and looking at how many ideas there are out there. The sharing of pictures, the sharing of a walk, the sharing of an experience on that walk. All of these are little kernels of ideas that if you use in your process, in your practice, when you're having a day where you just think, I can't build something today, I can't get going, then these are examples of how we might be able to try something different that we haven't, and see where that takes us. But anyway, let's talk to the actual artists. So if you're ready to come back, it'd be lovely to have you, Christophorus and Natasha. Hopefully they haven't done a runner. Yay, hello. Welcome back. I just want to start by saying it was such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure to see this conversation, and to imagine that if you were in a room in a studio together, you probably would have had lots of white sheets and pens and pictures, and you would have been probably sharing things on laptops and saying, well, I bought this from my walk yesterday, or I bought that. And that process we've probably all done. We've all been in a studio where we've looked at, how do we even start with something new, and you really conjured that up in this remote rehearsal room that we are in. So I wanted to start with this lovely idea of taking each other for a walk, and how that was really pleasurable for us as well to go on those virtual walks. I found that really, really interesting. It really made there were some things that you said there that it helped bring the connection and the links to each other. What I'd like to really know from both of you is what surprised you about, once you'd made that decision, oh, we'll go for walks and then we'll take each other with us. Was there any surprises to you when you were on that walk before you then brought it to the other person?
I paid more attention to what was around me. I started seeing things through the lens of the others, of someone that has never visited the place. And I took a step back and contemplated what would be the reaction to this. I mean, the whole idea of the barrel, and how it came to my mind, the mythology from the antiquity surprised me a great deal. And I said, oh my goodness, this is a material for further artistic exploration. And I believe that related to Tash, if I may. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I felt the same. I think we both kind of felt that walks were social for us in a kind of cultural way, and that we won't be able to. And I think maybe if we were having our artistic actual meeting, we would have maybe gone for a walk or had new environments to sit. And I think a lot of times when you're developing ideas, that's kind of maybe part of it, getting to know each other and opening up and understanding each other's positions and where we come from. And so this felt like a way of trying to think of him as part of me being there. So it's kind of, you have another person in your brain, and there's a new way to kind of be creative and think about how to share that. And I think for me as well, trying to film, but also kind of, I wasn't really, I think normally you walk down the street and you might be more aware of how, just where you're going or what you're doing. And I wasn't really aware of where I was going to end up on the walk. It was more about, what am I seeing? Oh, should I film this or should I draw this? So then I can then share it. It was more about just kind of being in that moment and interacting with it. And I think having the opportunity, especially I think during these kind of times at the moment, to feel like it's okay to just go out on the street and feel like you can create something, and not to feel that it has to be amazing, or it has to be really good at the moment, or it just to kind of get the ball going, I think was something really unexpected for me. And like I said, I met someone on the walk and we had a chat, and just things where I think putting yourself in an environment, which then when we were writing a short story started to fuel some of my thinking, and I went past the playground and just parts of things of childhood and memories, but then also thinking of these times and how things are now. And what it would be like to be a child right now, just things where you wouldn't really let yourself think down those lines if you were just kind of staying at home. So I think the social walk together was a really good creative tool. And I know a lot of photographers do kind of go for walks as a way to kind of get things going for them. So it was nice to have a reason to kind of try it out myself.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You brought up so many things there. A couple of things that I've written down, which I'll come back to later. But one of the things you just said there made me think, almost like when you were walking, Tash, it was almost like Christopher was not just going to be the person you collaborated with. He's almost your audience for the moment. I need to, and vice versa. Now, that's a really interesting thought when you think, is that normal when you start to collaborate with someone, that you're almost saying, my actual collaborator is my audience at the moment? Is that a normal process for both of you to have that feeling?
It is an opportunity, actually. It's something like more interactive, and that can shape the final creative output. I very much welcomed the comments of Tash on photos and videos that were shared in the Google Drive, because it was like an instant feedback, an instant, the third eye to shape how the next stage will be. And I very much appreciate it. I found it as an enriching element.
Yeah, and I think it was almost like we were an audience for each other, but more in the sense that it was an active one, like you'd have a pen pal, and it was like it was a correspondence or a chat, but through what we'd put through. And I'd upload something thinking, oh, we're talking about that, and then I'd get a new piece, and it would take, okay, maybe I should, I don't know, for example, there was gloves that Christopher put in the chat, and then I thought, oh, okay, I'll put my boots, because it's like part of getting ready for the walk and having this kind of experience and seeing that, I don't know, just things where I think that
made the whole thing very informal.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask
and
about.
That's something that relates.
Sorry, carry on, Christophorus.
And that's something that relates to the concept of the walk. Is it me? No.
Yeah.
And that's something that relates to the concept of the walk. Something social, something informal, something eventually pleasant. We don't go for a walk, and I think that if we take this experience of collaborating with Dash further in our artistic practices, it will come to our benefit, because we're going to start seeing things differently. And this is a skill in times like this we live in. Change comes with pain, comes with some sort of a necessity, something that is imposed. If we start seeing change through play, through informal spaces like this, then it can come easier and more pleasantly.
Well, this is really interesting because what I want to ask you both is how often have you tried to collaborate with somebody you don't know? Or is this quite normal for you because you've never met in person and you've only met online maybe an hour and a half altogether, and through that process you've made some agreements about, oh well, I mean, you've gone quite a long way really quickly. Is this a normal practice for you? Would you normally be considering collaborating with someone you know? And as you move forward, do you think actually this example has opened up new avenues to collaborate with people that you've yet to meet or may never actually meet in person?
Yeah, I think I have done projects where it is you working with people maybe for the first time, or kind of being brought together because of a project, or kind of having that interaction. But I think what's different with this is it feels the actual format of how we could exchange online, and how we could, like, playing with Mural, or like even just the Zoom conversation. And I haven't ever worked like that before. And that was really interesting, because I'll have, I think I do, yeah, collaborate and work with people I know, but then also I do try and, if there's opportunities, look for them elsewhere and to meet new people. And I think there's so much that is really amazing about meeting new people, because it brings other sides of yourself to a situation, which I think maybe when we're in our comforts and we're with people we know, we can delve into some things maybe we wouldn't with strangers. But actually, I think with strangers, you can kind of end up being more vulnerable, more open about things that
Mm.
you wouldn't necessarily, which means that the art and the work that you do and produce can be, yeah, it has lots of different potential avenues, or limitless, or whatever. But yeah, I feel like this, I would definitely continue using this as a format, and just thinking, like, I hadn't, tried to, they're just tools and things I hadn't tried before, which were always there, but you just don't think about them. No, so yeah, sorry, long way of saying it, but yeah, I would.
It was definitely a first for me as well. And I never felt that burden that comes with collaboration. I mean, the word has a certain weight. At least in my mind, that at least based on previous experiences, that everything has been pre-arranged, pre-discussed, and agreed. The way that this exchange was structured was not structured at all. It was up to us to, give it a shape.
Mm.
And connecting with a stranger uh, through informal communication tools, quite personal, being willing, or at least at reach at any point, at any uh, occasion, felt terrifying and exciting at the same time. It's a first for me. It's a very pleasant experience because it keeps that level of human, informal, playful, pleasant, and turns the collaboration, revolutionized the idea I had about collaboration.
Well, it's interesting because I think, I mean, I completely agree with you, Christophorus. It revolutionizes the idea of me, for me too. And yet we've been living in an IT world for a couple of decades now. And in fact, online and using IT goes right back to the 60s when it started. I recently found out that it was through a theatre company that internet cafes came about. And it was through a theatre happening that happened. That blew my mind that's where internet cafes ended up coming from. So it just shows you how long there has been this use of the current technology and the arts. What I was looking at when you two came together, because if somebody's sitting there listening and they're thinking, would they? How do you connect, and or what do we use this for? I found it really interesting that you. I made some notes here, and I was looking at the lamps, and I just took them as one small example out of all of that really interesting mural board that you made. Which, and for anyone who wasn't clear what the mural board is, it's this online whiteboard really where you can add stuff and you can print stuff and you can post things. And that was what we were watching growing. And looking at the light lamps, from that I was doing my own whiteboard really, and I was looking at the lights and the lamps, and immediately the conversation started to talk about how it can show up social injustice, how it shows up history, how it shows inequality. And then there was that, and because it becomes quite human once you immediately talk about who put those lights there. And of course you could go the other way: who invented light, where did light get chosen to be put, and where it didn't get put, and why on that street is there light and now there's the second light. There's so many conversations about a simple thing that we walk past, and for many of us we completely just take for advantage. And then so that led me on to looking at society, and you talked about the light and darkness, and eventually I put on my list authority and permission. And I just thought, right there you have an immense amount of theme. If you were thinking of building a solo show off this, or if you were thinking of building a show, maybe it could be an exhibition, or it could be live, or it could be photography or film. Right there in that one tiny kernel of what you've talked about in that hour, there was 7 or 8 different themes that could then branch off, and you came there together, you found all of that together. And I just thought that's an amazing example of how this kind of improvised rehearsal can actually begin something. With that in mind, if you were going to move forward after today's conversation, what would that next step be? If you were going to think solo performance or show or exhibition, or if you were going to continue collaborating, what would your next steps be?
Should we go first, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Bringing people into the frame, introducing Tasha to some of my fellow residents and telling their stories, and inviting her to discover their stories, to listen to their stories, to ask them. So I take a step back and I let Tasha discover my fellow residents in Athens, and all those that live in that street with the 2 light lamps, talking to local people, asking about these past memories, present memories, what is happening.
So kind of like a memory mapping kind of experience in like oral cultures. And I think what I'd also be interested in like developing this idea of the kind of merging, maybe like finding out these kind of historic, like focusing in on a location or our local, like our locale literally, and then blurring those two together into kind of weaving the stories and finding those networks and connections which we have. And I think within that, like you said, Danny, there's so many specific things that we might find actually that the light lamp could tie really nicely with this moment in Norwich. And I don't know, I think there could be some things that you could then learn and expand from there. But also I feel like with coming up with so many different ideas and thinking about things in a kind of quite open way, it means that it allows us to kind of branch off, and not having an answer is sometimes okay. I think provoking questions is always good. And I think what was I going to say? I feel like it will help. The more questions we open, although it opens it up more, it also in a way chisels something into a sculpture. I think you can end up with so much material that you then make those editorial decisions together and those curations, and you start to frame and shape what it is that you're sharing between you in a more kind of obvious sense. And I think that's part of the chaos of kind of the workroom or that kind of thing. So I guess my normal instinct and natural instinct would now start to feel like, let's shape and pull some ideas and work with them and to kind of refine and get to maybe like the essence of what is happening in the exchange or what it means.
Well, the question, you're talking about a question, so I've got 2 questions here that I want to ask you. And I'm going to ask you first, Natasha, because you mentioned when you were going for the walk, you said, yes, I connected, though this is not the time to connect. And yet you had a whole hour's connection with another human being. And it turned out that both of you were artists, also doing your own walk within nature or in your space. And I was thinking to myself, is there a time that we can't not to connect, or is this the issue with knowing that we can't socialize is not the same as not connecting? And so I wanted to provoke you to just relook at that statement. And as an artist or a human, do you still stand by that, or is it the socialization that we're saying no, we can't do that yet because of this disease that's floating around the world?
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. I don't stand by it in the sense. I think it was more, I feel like protocol and administration, that is not, it kind of suggests that this is the time to not go out and connect and see people. But regardless, it feels like we can't help it. Like, even if we do it safely, it's still a form of connection. This is a form of connection. I think that is really valuable. And I think actually is a really good way to reframe maybe some of the things of how we can feel quite isolated during these times, and remember that it's not about not connecting, it's just about how we connect and keep safety within those connections. And
and that's what that, and I'm not bringing this up to put you on the spot. It was this because I think, because the second question comes very quickly after that, which is which I have written where have I written it? Is the question of, is it possible to make stuff with all of these restrictions? And when we're listening to so many no's through the media, through the news, which are all there for a reason, and we can't fight that, are we as artists, what does that do to us as artists, as well as being a human? Our output is this artistic expression, which on the whole is trying to say yes to something. And I think that use of not socializing and not connecting has probably felt the same for a lot of artists. Do you know what I mean? And so when you brought it, so you talking about it, I felt was really important to just spotlight that, about how we can connect still, because it's so important to connect still, both through the arts but also as a human. I don't know if that made sense. I tried to make that make sense, but I'm not sure that did.
I think it does. And I feel like during lockdown as well, I mean, they're just like my drawing of Christophorus, and I started doing these portrait series before, but in the lockdown I really spent time and added watercolor and sort of really gave detail to it, because that was my form of socialize. It was felt like a form of having that social interaction, of paying attention to someone's face like you would in a conversation. And then I do want to send it to you, so I feel like, which is how it's part of that. I feel like having that connection and feeling limited, and how can you express and how can you connect, and trying to find those avenues. And I think for me that was an unconscious thing that I wanted those connections, so I started to draw to kind of create those connections in some capacity, and it gives me an excuse then to reach out to someone. Oh, I drew a picture of you. A bit weird, but or whatever it is. But yeah.
No, nice.
I felt connected myself through this sense of responsibility for my work partner. It felt so real. It felt so like it was about a physical walk. And I curated the experience to create that moment, that pleasant moment. And I also felt that responsibility of not exposing my work partner to any discomfort, virtually, metaphorically speaking, of not, prioritizing safety, and,
I appreciate
not doing something too intimate, too into the private space. I mean, we are two strangers after all. I cannot go be and step that virtual line of private space.
Yeah, and I think that that's what the way you talked about the sense of responsibility. I wondered if also that prompt having taking part in this and knowing that you'd made a commitment to each other to do these virtual walks, did that prompt you to then do work, to then do this? Because I know it seems a stupid question because you clearly have, but what I'm trying to think is for those people out there that are struggling to get going again, and we still have weeks left of our lockdown. Um, what did it mean for you to say, actually, no, I have to go do this now. I have to do this for somebody else, and I'm going to push myself to do it.
Yeah, go.
Curiosity. I mean, it's about this giving and receiving. You give something with the anticipation of receiving something else. And I think because I had this connection with Tash, that shared feeling of willingness to do it, to go for a walk, that was motivating. And that
Yeah.
was helping me to, let's do that.
Yeah, it was a kind of a virtual push towards each, like to motivate the other one, because if one person saw, I don't know, I saw that you'd written something on the Google Drive, so I thought, okay, it's my turn to, and it's that kind of wanting to give permission and time in order to do it, because it feels like you want to respect that person's time. So it's what I think about and what I'm going to present or offer into that exchange is, yeah, it pushes you a bit more than if you were doing it for yourself, I think, definitely. And even if it's just you can get a friend or someone to kind of encourage you to walk or go elsewhere and find different ways of doing your craft, your art, or whichever area it is, I think it really helps, whether or not someone's an artist, to have that motivation.
Yeah, that brings me on to the last two questions. And the first question was about social media. So if you can't connect, or you're shy, or you don't have somebody you could collaborate with, could you be using your social media platforms as the push, as the reason to go out and do? Would you think that's because it can be a two-edged sword, that can't it? A double-edged sword, the whole social media, but not everybody has been brought together with. What do you do if you don't know how to reach out and collaborate?
Well, I think that social media can be, yeah, like you said, a double-edged sword. But if you're not wanting to just kind of post and put yourself out there, but you want it to feel like an exchange, I feel like, and not have to rely so many on how many likes you get, or for your sense of boost, or whether you should go and do something or not. I think it's a good platform to make a call out, and I think there's lots of times I've done that, where you might have a specific idea or theme, or maybe there's just something you want to try out. I don't know. I've done it in the past where I said, oh, I want to put on a Balkan event. Can I have just anyone Balkan talk to me online? And then you get responses. And I think trying to find whatever it is, maybe it's a rough theme or rough thing, but if you can use, there's Facebook groups, there's Instagram. I think you can try and find something and someone in that way, or a little group. And I think creating those activities and options for yourself might, although it seems like a little bit of work to try and establish those connections, I think you'll benefit so much off trying to create those connections in that way, rather than this. I think also for a lot of people, posting does do that for them, but I think for me, I think I need the interaction more for personal exchange, rather than kind of putting myself out there to the unknown.
Yeah, this is one way, but I like to take into another direction, poking at you both, that if you are shy, if you are not familiar or not willing to play the social media game, because it's kind of, to find, to create that buzz, to go for the viral tweet, eh, and you don't know how to start, or you don't know anyone willing to collaborate with you on a specific idea, do it yourself. Start little by little. It can be in the real world with the blackboard, uh, giving flesh to your idea, and someone will pay attention, will notice it, and others that will notice your work may connect you, put you in contact with the right collaborating person.
Yeah, I was going to just say as well, it reminds me of if I ever do something as a singular project, sometimes I think of future me as my collaborator. So it's kind of pushing that person to respond, and then when you're on the other side of it, I always think of the past me. I can't, why did she do that? Why have I had to do it? She's pushed me to a new, but it's that kind of, if you kind of think of, maybe you don't think about working with yourself in the immediate moment, but if you think, okay, well, this person, I would like myself in the future to have done this. So you do a little activity to encourage you to move towards that space, I guess, is a kind of way to have that conversation with yourself.
Wow, I think that's a lovely idea to think to yourself, yeah, future me. Sometimes I think we've all had that moment with past me, but it's often that, oh, why did the past me do that? But I think it's really interesting. The past you has always had has always had great moments. So it's interesting to question, yeah, what would that one 20 years ago or that 10 years ago be questioning? That's really nice. It's a really lovely idea of you're never alone. You have your past and your future self. That's a really interesting concept. Wow. Okay. I do think we might be coming to an end. Is there anything about the whole process or that you'd like to say to each other before we finish today? Or anyone who's listening, who will be watching this?
I okay. I would just like to say thank you so much, everyone, for this, and I mean it in a genuine way, because I feel like showing yourself or showing part of your thinking, even if it's in a kind of simple way, it can be quite scary. And I think this process shows a lot about how I think as creative people or individuals, we might, it kind of forces you to play with self-doubt and like there's a lot of questions about how you present yourself and why you're doing things. So I think being able to have the opportunity to do this in a really caring environment where it's about slow working and it's about respecting each other and safety, and being able to have conversations early on about what we were comfortable with and not, I think was really helpful. And I'm really grateful to have an exchange and a kind of the opportunity to do that. So I want to say thank you for that, and that for those listening out there, that it's okay just to have a go and see what happens. It's all part of it, and like Danny was saying earlier, there is no mistakes. So yeah.
And that the important thing, the glue, was slow theatre and the trust that we all enjoyed by the slow theatre company team, and I also in my case by really appreciated in that the trust to embark on a journey, on a short virtual journey with many stations, with lots of fun, lots of pleasant moment, and an experience and a confidence increased to carry on.
That is very, very sweet. And I want to say a really big thank you to both of you to let us see this part of the process, because it isn't one that many people get to see outside of the arts. And even within creative arts practitioners, we don't always show each other this, because we somehow think it's the messy stage, it's the playful but the messy but the chaotic but the everything flying up in the air stage. And it's not but when you're out of it, you can sometimes worry that you're not sure what you're doing, even with your own practices. So to have the experience and opportunity to watch somebody else, to look in, is so invaluable to so many people. So thank you very much. I know it takes so much bravery for you both, and we have really appreciated having you. So we really appreciate that, and we really wish you all the best in your future endeavours, either together or separate. And please keep in touch. That's the brilliant thing. Keep in touch and show us what you do next. I'd like to also thank Becky for being there and working, and of course technician Chris, who has been really invaluable in this particular set up. And I would say that for anyone who's trying to lean in on the technology that we have there, please get in touch if you've got any questions. We are here as a free resource, and we just really want to support and help anybody really, just anybody. You know, we're not fussy. We are very much about being there for each other on both a human level and an artistic level. So I think we're going to wrap that up today, but thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, everybody else. And we have our final Creative Lab next week. So please do come back and see us then. But until then, thank you very much from everyone at Slow Theatre Company.